My apologies for that. People gaining information as well as folks around the state engage in their own things that are able to join us on days like today. So you guys will hear from some folks at the beginning as well as later on today. So this event today honors our collective efforts and highlights the importance of acknowledging that human trafficking occurs across the globe, but most importantly, it is happening right here in our community and across our state. Today, we gather to recognize January as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and tomorrow, January 11th, is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. My name is Janelle Snow. I'm honored to have served as the board president of RRCAHT for now nearly 3 years. My passion for this work came from my years in direct service, where I worked closely with young individuals, some of whom disclosed being trafficked, others exhibited warning signs and red flags of being exploited. So these experiences that I had fueled my commitment to combating trafficking in all its forms and bring a voice to the voiceless by exposing these atrocities. Human trafficking is often perceived as a distant problem, but it's very much a reality here in Rochester. It's our modern day slavery, manifesting as both sex and labor trafficking. Traffickers use force, fraud, and coercion to exploit their victims for commercial sex or forced labor. The traffickers are actually more commonly family members and people that victims perceive as significant others. It's people that are familiar often to the victims, unlike this white van narrative that might lead somebody to believe that it's a faraway issue that we don't really have to focus on. It is a local issue. It's happening right here in Rochester every day. The news captures only glimpses into some of the bigger cases in our area, state, and nationally. Human trafficking in all forms infringes upon basic human rights. It thrives in secrecy and devastates lives. That's why it's so important that we bring a voice and awareness to it. As of 2024, the International Labor Organization report estimated that trafficking is an industry that generates approximately $236 billion annually worldwide, making it one of the fastest growing and most pervasive criminal enterprises. This is an alarming 37% increase in profits since 2014. They estimate a total of 27.6 million people were trapped in forced labor and forced sexual exploitation on any given day in 2021. And we imagine that number has only increased since. The demand for prostitution and cheap labor fuels sexual and labor exploitation, violating basic covenants of human dignity. Despite the magnitude of this problem, it remains underreported, and survivors do not receive the trauma-informed holistic support they need to build a healthy, healed, and prosperous life. At RRCAHT, we seek to change these realities by acting as a conduit for education, collaboration, and resources. As a 501c3, we are uniquely positioned to assist nonprofits with gaps in funding, professional development, and outreach efforts, relieving some burdens from the dedicated staff who tirelessly support at-risk and exploited individuals. We collaborate to bring our shared expertise to solve the issues survivors face within the courts, with law enforcement, and as they seek support. We are present in spaces such as our local human trafficking intervention court's quarterly partner meeting. We're engaged with the new anti-trafficking efforts within the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and will soon hopefully become part of the Western District Human Trafficking Task Force's collaboration. I'd like to pause here and hand the spotlight over to Kevin Ryan with the Western District Human Trafficking Task Force to share the wonderful anti-trafficking efforts they're making for our region. So Kevin, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Janelle, and please accept my apologies. I have a little bit of a winter cold, so I'm a little bit more raspy than normal. The Western District of New York Task Force has been in effect since 2006. It's a federally funded task force, and it covers the 17 counties of the western part of New York State. And basically, it's the United States Attorney's Office, 17 counties of the Western District of New York, covering both the Rochester and Buffalo area. Recently, we have really worked hard, thanks to Janelle and other partners in the Rochester area, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, to expand our footprint into the eastern part of the state. We were unfortunately too centered in Buffalo, and we're moving away from that and we've gotten really good efforts and response from our partners out and that we're developing in the eastern part of the state. Just to expand a little bit on what Janelle had said, trafficking is both labor and sex trafficking, and a multitude of different individuals that come into our realm because of this is working with various partners, both taking a trauma-informed approach. We put a victim-centered approach. We have law enforcement and service providers, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and the courts working together to put the victim first and to then ultimately look at pursuing other type of criminal charges. It's very unique in the law enforcement realm because our first goal is to take care of the victim and make sure that we can get the victim into a safe spot. I encourage other groups to reach out to the Western District Task Force. We are trying to be a more collaborative and resource added task force where we're not looking to take over anything. We're looking to add, and that's really what our function will be as we move forward into the next few years. Thank you, Janelle, for inviting me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have a few moments to speak today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great ever since we connected with you. And, it was at another community event that was meant to bring partners together. And we had heard of something that had gone on maybe at one of the colleges. And I'm like, who are these people? We don't know them. So then I met Kevin Ryan, and I was like, why haven't I known you? And he was like, no, it's our responsibility. And I was like, no, it takes two to tango. So we're so grateful to be engaged with you guys now and to have you here in all the work that you guys are doing to really support with a streamlined process to getting folks the support that they really need.
Yeah, and I should just add, it is our responsibility. We're federally funded to cover off the 17 counties of the Western District in New York. We're one of the oldest task forces in the United States. I think we've been funded since 2006. So the responsibility really falls on us to expand our footprint. And there was some great work. I mean, it was really easy because there's some great work being done on the eastern part of the state by your group, Sue Kirby at Bright Star, and I could go on and just name other groups. It was really a pleasure to have an opportunity to start working and collaborating with the Rochester side.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we also wanted to share with you guys today some efforts being done by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. So unfortunately, they couldn't attend with us today because they have other training taking place. But I wanted to share a video that they prepared for us. So just give me one brief moment so that I can do a screen share. And hopefully all of this will work well. And it's a quick 5 minutes.
Hi everyone, Keith Beer from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to the Proclamation. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk with you about some of the recent efforts by the Sheriff's Office and some of our community partners to address the issue of human trafficking in our region. Human trafficking is a very complex issue. It requires a coordinated, victim-centric, and multidisciplinary effort. Trafficking has many faces. It can involve a single or few local persons exploiting other members of the community, their friends, or even family members. Trafficking can also be a complex, organized, international enterprise involving many people in various roles and millions of dollars in illicit proceeds. The Walk Free Global Estimate of Modern Slavery predicted that in 2023 as many as 50 million people lived or worked in conditions of modern slavery around the globe. This is staggering, more so because this is an increase of 10 million people from their 2018 estimates. Walk Free also estimates that over 1 million people in the United States are currently living in conditions of modern slavery. The United Nations researches and identifies key source and destination countries where victims are transported for exploitation. Unfortunately, the United States is one of the largest importers of exploited human beings in the globe. The number of people identified as human trafficking victims is also increasing, meaning that public awareness and outreach is increasing and more victims are being identified and receiving resources. This is good. Unfortunately, however, the number of global prosecutions for human trafficking has remained relatively constant, while successful prosecutions continue to decline. More specifically here in New York State, between 2018 and 2022, the National Human Trafficking Hotline identified at least 10 venues where trafficking was reported. Of these, the pornography industry and illicit massage businesses were predominant. Of the referrals made to the New York Interagency Task Force on Human Trafficking, the number of identified victims has been steadily increasing, with more children being identified as victims. Traffickers exploit the most vulnerable, including children, marginalized communities, and persons with substance abuse and mental health struggles. Between 2018 and 2021, the number of referrals made to the Interagency Task Force grew considerably, not only in the New York City and New York metro region, but also throughout New York State. So what are we doing about it? Well, in 2024, Sheriff Todd Baxter directed the Sheriff's Office to take an active role in the fight against human trafficking in Monroe County. This mandate includes several features. One, collect data and determine the extent and prevalence of human trafficking occurring in Monroe County. Two, to establish a point of contact for the human trafficking information in Monroe County. Three, network with service agencies in the region to develop pathways to identify, protect, and provide assistance to victims of human trafficking. 4, coordinating and training with other law enforcement agencies and participation in the Western New York Human Trafficking Task Force. 5, coordinating with the Monroe County District Attorney and U.S. Attorney's Office to ensure successful prosecution of offenders at the state and federal levels where appropriate. And finally, the identification, arrest, and successful prosecution of human trafficking offenders and dismantling of trafficking operations. Again, welcome to the Proclamation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. I've attached my email. Thank you and have a great event.
So, you know, the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, they offered a couple more statistics, and one of the things is there's statistics everywhere. And it's hard to figure out what's accurate, what's not accurate. And trafficking is in itself is just very difficult to identify because, as I said previously, it's one of the very hidden things. A lot of times the victims are very much silenced. So I love that the Sheriff's Department has taken on the responsibility of really trying to figure out what are these local statistics. One of the most common things that we have received through email is requests for these numbers. And often we refer people back to larger institutions, the Polaris Project, and we just tell them, we don't know locally. There's more national numbers. There might be statewide statistics, but I'm sure Kevin could speak to how different he sees things on this side of state versus the other side of state versus downstate. So it really can change not only the response that we know we need to have, but also making sure that we have the resources available to really help the folks that need that assistance. So thank you to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for that. And then we have RRCAHT. So RRCAHT has certainly collaborated and made significant strides in addressing this issue within our organization over this past year. And I wanted to share some of the efforts that we've put in. And as a reminder, we're a full volunteer nonprofit. So nobody is paid for the work that we do. We are all working professionals. We have families. We have other responsibilities. And we are just committed to this issue to make sure that this nonprofit continues and that the work goes on. And we feel a really interesting place in the community. And it's just great to always know the efforts that we make are really sometimes some of those missing puzzle pieces. So our first and foremost largest effort is community education and awareness. So we continue to lead educational efforts and fostered awareness through Monroe County to various groups of community members. It's definitely fair for us to say that this year we reached over 1,000 people between our tabling events as well as our educational events, where we go out and provide human trafficking awareness education to community members and professionals in various fields. So this year, some of those folks were, we had social workers at the Rochester Psych Center. We educated folks at Oasis. And we also supported a group at Lemoyne College of physician's assistants with some human trafficking education. So we get requests from all over. Upcoming, we have some stuff going on at Unity Hospital as well as RTS so that we can give the bus drivers some heads up about what are some of the red flags and what are the resources. Most importantly, what are the resources that exist? And I would also be remiss to not announce our upcoming Human Trafficking Conference, which is going to be held virtually May 14th. It's an all-day event from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we are going to have CEUs approved for both nurses and social workers. And this is going to be a free event for anybody to attend. And because it is virtual, you know, those CEUs will be approved obviously for our state, but we are happy to have anybody from anywhere attend. We have brilliant folks that are going to be joining us so that we can have many different breakout sessions and just make sure that folks get education in specific arenas, and also recording those sessions. So, you know, for folks that are able to attend and they want to go to multiple different sessions, they can come back to those recordings later on. And then folks that can't join us on that day, they'll be able to view those recordings at their own leisure later on and make sure that those educational efforts are really shared widely. Also, our collaborative efforts. RRCAHT remains a coalition of passionate individuals and organizations dedicated to eradicating trafficking. So we have collaborations with agencies such as Angels of Mercy, Bright Star, which Kevin had given a shout out to earlier, as well as agencies like Restore. We also have religious organizations and then just general community members where they're just dedicated to this effort. Together, we aim to fill gaps in support services to victims and survivors. We meet every single month to foster collaboration and awareness of efforts happening in Rochester and work as a collective to support the needs of victims and survivors. So we're often getting updates on what's going on in Rochester. What are some of the street outreach folks seeing, increases in trends, changes, and so we can find out what are those needs, because some of the things that we offer are care packs through our care pack initiative, and then we also offer survivor funds as well. So this year we got a generous grant from ESL. It supported us being able to do a large care pack event and provide some of the more expensive items like blankets and undergarments and stuff like that, that we don't always get to put into the care packs, but it also included essentials like toiletries, safety items like flashlights, as well as backup phone chargers and the phone cords so that either they can plug their phone in and charge their phone or use those backup chargers and make sure that their phones can stay charged, as well as the warm winter items, blankets, hand warmers, and just things that we knew that street outreach folks would need going into the winter months. They're packed into bags that were offered to agencies that either serve survivors and victims or folks that are doing those street outreach services. And we were able to make 200 bags and we split them between the Safe Court, Bright Star, Angels of Mercy, and the Center for Youth. And our survivor funds this year help support a young victim needing a safe place to stay. So we were able to jump in immediately into action and provide financial support to ensure their safe location was paid for an extended amount of time, while other systems work together to ensure a long-term plan for that young adult. And that is always just such a beautiful place where I remind all of us that's where we sit in a really effective place in the community, because nonprofits, they have grant funding that can offer a lot of things, but sometimes either the cost of a hotel, it maxes out what isn't available. And so when we find out that there's needs from some of our community partners and they say, hey, you know, this is what we've done up to date, this is what our grant allows, but unfortunately we have this specific gap right here, we can jump into place and use some of our survivor funds to fill that need. And it's really critical that these survivors and victims are able to get that rapid assistance. And then we have our new website, which we have been working on. very dedicatedly to it because we received a wonderful grant from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation. And we worked with SRG Management Firm to create a brand new website. Our volunteer board members have tirelessly worked on expanding the information available, but we really wanted to streamline your experience. We started seeing the trends and why people are coming to our website, and making sure that those specific things that people are frequenting our website for are very forward for them to access. It has absolutely increased the number of requests for us to come out and educate groups of professionals and community members. So I really encourage you guys, when you have a moment, check out our brand new website. It's rrcaht.org. And hopefully you guys have a good experience with that. Much more condensed than our old website. And so before we move to the next part of today's events, I want to remind everyone that today is a call to action for each of us. Whether it's through education, advocacy, or direct support, we all play a role in shining a light on the darkness of trafficking. As we honor National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, let us reaffirm our commitment to local community, national, and to our local community, our nation, and a world free from trafficking. Thank you for your unwavering dedication to this cause. We're so grateful that we've had repeat elected officials that come to us every single year. And we're just so grateful for your time and your attendance in as much of today's events that you're able to attend. So I'm going to invite Melanie Blow. She is currently our Secretary of RRCAHT, but she serves various roles. She wears many hats. She is one of the founding members as well of RRCAHT. So she has been with the organization since 2013. And she's going to introduce our public officials who are going to share their remarks. And then as she does that, I'm going to be working in the background, again, to share some of those digital proclamations for some folks that weren't able to be present today, as well as some videos. So just be patient as we load up those items. And as a reminder, this part of today is going to end about 11, and we invite you to come back at 11:30 with our panel of experts to discuss recognizing and helping male victims, sexual and gender minority victims, and other non-traditional victims. We're going to be joined by Brittany Schulich, Christian Eduardo, and Shane Bloom. So Melanie, I will.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Janelle. First up, I would like to invite Miguel Melendez, City Council President.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Pleased to be here. I want to first and foremost thank RRCAHT for the work that you're doing in our community. Critically important educational work, and frankly, it's an issue that we have seen on the rise, and we hear a lot about in our community. On behalf of City Council, I would like to share a proclamation with you all, and this is signed by all 9 members of our legislative body, and it reads as follows. Whereas January 11th, 2025 marks the 19th annual Human Trafficking Awareness Day in the United States, as designated by Congress in 2007. And whereas the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking is an instrumental community organization which is dedicated to eliminating human trafficking in our communities through education, advocacy, and networking with individuals and organizations. And whereas human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery where people profit from the control and exploitation of others, as defined under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And whereas human trafficking is an abhorrent practice which can affect anyone from young children to teens and adults, and cuts across socioeconomic and demographic lines. And whereas the work of the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking has been instrumental in educating, preventing, and advocating around human trafficking throughout the Rochester area. And whereas without this work and the work of leaders across all levels of government and community organizations, human trafficking in Rochester may go overlooked and allowed to fester. And whereas we thank everyone involved in the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking and all else who are involved in this space for their pivotal work to end human trafficking in Rochester. And now, therefore, we, Council President Miguel A. Melendez, Council Vice President Lachey D. Harris, and Council members Mitch Gruber, Mary Lupian, Willie J. Lightfoot, Stanley Martin, Michael A. Patterson, Bridget A. Monroe, and Kim Smith of the City of Rochester do hereby proclaim January 11th to be Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Next up, I'd like to invite Bill Melee, Brighton Town Supervisor. You're muted, Bill.
Sorry, there we go. Thank you so much, both Melanie and Janelle. Thank you to everybody who's part of the Rochester Regional Coalition. Janelle, I was particularly pleased to hear your comment about going to the physician's assistant school at Lemoyne. My youngest of 3 daughters is a graduate of that program and works as a PA in Syracuse. So I'll have to chat with her about that. But what I'm seeing and what I've continued to see, and I think I have been to, if not all of these presentations, nearly all of them, again, since before the pandemic when we were able to do it in person, the work that you're doing and the creative ways I am seeing in more and more places, information, not just in the Rochester area, but in other parts of the state and beyond. Where there might be a likelihood of seeing people who are victims of trafficking. It's great to see that information out there. It's great to see so many people engaged in it. And from the town of Brighton's perspective, we know that there are misconceptions about human trafficking. We want to get very visibly saying human trafficking crosses all socioeconomic, racial, and other boundaries. And so in Brighton, we think it is very, very important to bring awareness to this problem. The more we can do that, the more successful we will all be in helping the survivors of human trafficking and bringing this plague to an end. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get our proclamation to you in time to get it up on the screen. But let me read a portion of it here. Whereas human trafficking is a modern form of slavery involving the use of force, fraud, or coercion to exploit people for labor, domestic servitude, or commercial sex acts. Whereas an insidious, pervasive industry, human trafficking generates over $100 billion annually. And whereas the U.S. National Human Traffic Hotline states that the majority of trafficking is in the commercial sex trade and disproportionately impacts women and girls. And whereas the town of Brighton supports the efforts being made by the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking and law enforcement, and I want to get back to that in just a moment, to prevent human trafficking and protect victims of trafficking. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Brighton Town Council do hereby declare January 11th, 2025 to be National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Day in the town of Brighton, and use this opportunity to make all members of our community aware of the evils of human trafficking so that trafficking and slavery are stopped and that victims are given justice and freedom. And this proclamation was signed at our town board meeting Wednesday, January 8th. I'll just display it here quickly. You know, one of the other things we did that night, there are some changes that we all are aware of coming at the federal level. The map that you put up earlier indicating the routes that people trafficked are brought to the United States are, at least in my mind, an indication that when we stigmatize people, immigrants, or people who look like they might be immigrants and look like they might not be what people believe are, ought to be considered legal residents of this country. When we stigmatize people, and so many victims of trafficking are, in fact, members of underserved communities or people from other countries, it makes them even less likely to come forward. It makes them even less likely to participate in investigations. So I know I'm speaking on behalf of the entire town board in Brighton. We are very concerned that the stigmatizing of legal and immigrants, people who have come to this country for all sorts of reasons, will ultimately hurt our ability to protect people from human trafficking. So thank you, everybody, for the work you're doing and for recognizing this month and the day coming up tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for all that. Next up, we have something from Adam Bello, County Executive. And Janelle needs to work some virtual wizardry here.
Yes, so many buttons to click. So I'm just gonna read part of this. I'm gonna go halfway down here. So whereas to appropriately combat human trafficking, we must increase public awareness and provide educational opportunities to ensure the public is able to recognize the signs of human trafficking and feel empowered to take action against it. Knowing the warning signs of human trafficking will help save lives, provide survivors with resources, supports, and services, and create a world where human trafficking can no longer exist. And whereas on January 10th, communities across the country provide an opportunity for residents, organizations, and local leaders to join together to shine light on human trafficking, honor survivors, and create a safer and more just community. Monroe County recommits to its efforts to prevent human trafficking, support survivors, and hold perpetrators accountable by collaborating with law enforcement, service providers, and advocacy groups. Now, therefore, I, Adam J. Bello, Monroe County Executive, do hereby proclaim January 10th, 2025 to recognize Human Trafficking Awareness Day in Monroe County and call upon every resident to raise awareness, advocate for justice, and support efforts to combat human trafficking in all its forms. So thank you, Adam Bello, the County Executive, for providing this proclamation to us and the support that we have received this year.
Thank you. Next up, we have a video from Monroe County Legislature President Aversha Roman.
Good morning. My name is Aversha Roman, and I am president of the Monroe County Legislature. On behalf of the Monroe County Legislature, I'm here to recognize the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and will present you all with a proclamation. Whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations that make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas, attendant to such concern, these legislators are justly proud to honor the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking for their dedication to eliminating human trafficking through education, advocacy, network, and service in the Monroe County area. Whereas the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking was founded in 2012 by citizens and stakeholders who wanted to combat human trafficking in the greater Rochester area. So they created a mission and decided to meet regularly to provide training, programs, and legislative advocacy to the Rochester community. And whereas the RRCAHT educates thousands of people each year throughout their free and customized training for anyone in the community. And after becoming a registered 501c3 in 2018, they were able to provide direct cash assistance to survivors whose needs were not being covered through other community agencies. And whereas the organization recognizes that human trafficking is a nuanced problem which requires complex solutions, they have made it a priority to unite diverse groups of people through networking to best address this issue. And whereas you all champion the rights of the voiceless, and continually push for systemic changes to combat human trafficking, in addition to working with service providers and experts throughout the community to provide survivors with the resources that they need to recover. Now, therefore, let it be known that I, Eversha Roman, President, and the Democratic Majority Caucus do hereby honor the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking for their commitment to making the greater Rochester area much more safer and healthier on this 10th day of January 2024. Thank you all so much for everything that you do. Have a great morning.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have the Greater Rochester Majority Delegation, which includes Assembly Members Harry Bronson, Desmond Meeks, Sarah Clark, Jen Lunsford, as well as Senators Broke and Cooney. Some more technical wizardry here.
So I'm going to read just part of this as well. And again, from the entire Greater Rochester Majority Delegation, recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness Day on January 11th, 2025. So I'm going to move down to midway. Whereas January 11th is recognized as Wear Blue Day to spotlight the efforts made against human trafficking and shows unity as we stand in solidarity with the individuals and families affected by this national tragedy. And whereas the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking works toward eliminating human trafficking in our communities through education, advocacy, and networking with individuals and organizations. And whereas the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking became a registered 501c3 in 2018 and provides direct support for those in Monroe County's Safe Court, I'll say as well as others. And whereas the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking provides support services such as calling our phone number to report human trafficking or texting help to 233-733. Now therefore be it proclaimed that this Rochester legislative delegation pause in their deliberations to celebrate the efforts and the support of the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking as they continue their endeavors against the atrocities caused by human trafficking. And be it further proclaimed that a copy of this proclamation be transmitted to the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And we have everybody's signatures down here. Bronson, Cooney, Sarah Clark, Summer Brook, Jen Lunsford, Demond Meeks, and we are joined today by a representative of Cooney's office. And yes, she's still here, Kiana Dixon. So thank you for being present with us today.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Seriously, thank you for spending time here on right at the start of the legislative session, which is not exactly time for slacking. We appreciate it immensely. Somebody else who shared a video is Senator Samra Brook. We have some more technical wizardry there.
Thank you to the members of the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking for inviting me to participate in this virtual gathering in recognition of National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and for allowing me to help you bring awareness of human trafficking right here in the Greater Rochester community. I'm grateful for this much-needed conversation. We know that human trafficking affects a diverse set of individuals, and there are severe gaps in the system that fail to help victims. As we identify the ways in which human trafficking is misunderstood, we also learn that human trafficking advocacy is evolving. That's why I sponsored two related bills that have been signed into law. Senate Bill S. 8710, which requires information concerning services for human trafficking victims to be shared in airport bathrooms, and Senate Bill 8678, which requires information concerning services for human trafficking victims to be shared in facilities at truck stops. The ideas for both of these bills was to bring more awareness to human trafficking. By making this information public, we can increase accountability and potentially prevent tragedies from taking place. But we know there is still so much that needs to be done. Until we move from helping victims to having 0 victims to help. Our work will never be done. Thank you for your incredible work. I'm so proud of all the support and proclamations delivered from our community and my fellow elected officials. I'm confident that this collaborative roundtable will yield great results. Together, we must devise solutions to save the lives of our fellow human beings. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And next up, and I believe last, we have a joint proclamation from Assembly Members Mactello and Jensen.
Right, and I'm going to just read part of this as well. This is a very long one. I'm going to start down here. Whereas in 2007, the United States ratified the resolution establishing January 11th as National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. And in 2010, President Obama dedicated the entire month of January to awareness and prevention of human trafficking. And whereas today there are more than 50 established organizations which globally combat this illegal practice, and more awareness has been raised than ever before. And whereas it is imperative that there be greater public awareness of this serious issue, and more must be done to eradicate slavery and human trafficking at the local, state, and national levels. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Assemblyman Brian Mactello and Assemblyman Josh Jensen, do hereby proclaim January 11th, 2025 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day in the 130th and 134th Assembly Districts, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to the Rochester Regional Coalition Against Human Trafficking. Signed by both of these Assembly members.
Thank you so much, Janelle. So Janelle, do you want to add any parting words as we get ready for the next segment of today here?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you again. Bill, you have joined us for many years. You have just been such a great support here. I said to Bill this morning, I had not seen an email from him this year to discuss his attendance, and I felt a little bit sad. But thankfully, he emailed us this morning to let us know he was joining in. So, you know, we're really grateful for all the support that we have today. And thank you to Kevin and, you know, just other folks that are even just participants not on the panel today, whether it be this morning or this afternoon. You know, just your continued support of us is really wonderful. And all the questions that we are asked throughout the year, the request for support, it's everything that we are here to engage with. So thank you. And we will part here. We'll come back at 11:30. So we do offer a break. So for panelists that are present now, you can just turn off your camera and mic. And for all of our folks in the audience, feel free to do the same. And we will return around 11:30 and start by then to get this panel event on the road. So thank you, everybody. If you can't come back, I hope you have a great weekend.
And for those who cannot come back, the panel discussion is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. We will send out some kind of an email to participants when it's up there. But this is a big way we can increase our educational footprint here, is by posting all of these things, because we realize that not everyone can spend an additional 90 minutes on this. But we got some really good people here today, so we're expecting this is going to be very educational and something that all of us will be able to walk away from understanding a little bit more.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, everybody.